Good morning. My name is Jim Durantis. I'm the Providence Real Estate Guy. And this morning we're going to talk with an insurance agency. We're going to speak with Alan and Bintou Chatterton of the Chatterton Insurance Agency in Pawtucket. It is a 100-year-old, third-generation family business. And we're going to talk a little bit about how the home insurance market has been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. We've spoken to legal experts, we've spoken to lending experts, and the third leg of that stool is the insurance experts. So with that, good morning. We're here this morning with Alan and Bintou Chatterton from the Chatterton Insurance Agency in the city of Pawtucket. And this is a part of our series talking about how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected various industries. And we've spoken to lenders, we've spoken to attorneys, and here with us this morning is the dynamic duo, husband and wife team at Chatterton Insurance, to talk to us a little bit about what we should be considering for insurance policies and how perhaps it has affected the industry and some of the changes that we may see going forward. So good morning, folks. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Morning, Jim.
Morning.
So Alan, why don't you tell us a little bit about, maybe give you a little bit of background on your company, and then we'll talk a little bit about how some of the, the shelter-in-place requirements and the work-from-home requirements have changed the way the insurance business looks at things, or people should consider their insurance coverage.
Sure, Jim. So in a nutshell, just a little bit of a history of our agency. It's a third-generation operation. Bintou joined my force in early part of the 21st century, 2002. My grandfather started the agency back in 1924. So we're approaching our centennial, and we've been here in Pawtucket that entire time.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's nice to see a third-generation business in Rhode Island. That's terrific.
Right.
So with that, you have quite a bit of experience in this business, and so
yes, but not so much with pandemics.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how some of the changes you've seen sort of in the short term since this basically broke out here roughly in March, and sort of the way that people are looking at insurance coverage, or maybe how you're advising clients to look at insurance coverage.
Sure. So this is brand new territory, for everyone, including ourselves. It impacted us immediately, as I briefly described to you earlier, in that we now have a skeleton crew in the office. Mm-hmm. We're an essential trade, so we are able to have most of our staff working from home, and it's working well. I credit Bintou for having gotten our agency into the 21st century with the ability to work remotely with the flick of a switch. As to how it's going to affect our clients, I guess in multiple ways, but we don't have a crystal ball, so much of it is yet to reveal itself. But I can say that, our clients who used to come and visit us, believe it or not, we still have clients who would pay for their homeowners, their auto, even their business with cash. They come up, they get their receipt. Wow. Now we caution them that, we are only taking visitors by appointments. Okay. We will honor an appointment if they call ahead, and we practice the appropriate distancing. We wear protective equipment and whatnot. So that has changed somewhat. As to policies themselves, beyond the case of the automobile carrier returning like 15% in premium for the physical damage portion of the policy, that's been across the board.
Okay.
They're issuing those credits. Homeowners has not responded like that. But I think your interest is more in line with the homeowners market.
Yeah, obviously being a real estate agent, that's the part of the business that I touch more often than not. And curiously, you mentioned that the agency staff has now been largely working remotely, and we're seeing that across multiple industries. I mean, many people are working remotely from their homes, and the likelihood that a lot of companies may evaluate or perhaps even reconfigure how they bring employees back. Does that, using the home as more of a workplace, would that impact or change the way people should look at their homeowners coverage, or are there maybe new types of insurance that might be coming down the pike to accommodate people working remotely from home?
Yeah, the home office exposure. Bintu, you want to address that?
Well, as of now, some companies or some people already were working home remotely at their house.
Okay.
And right now, this just is going to be a little more on steroid. There's going to be a lot more people working remotely from home. And so if you're going to be in that position, it would really depend on what type of work you do.
Okay.
If it's work that does not require foot traffic, I don't think you have so much to worry about. But if you have work that requires people coming and going, then you might want to consider a business policy for the business that you're running from your home. As far as security for the information that you'll be processing, most of the time, if you're doing work for a corporation, I think they will give you access to a secure network to have access to it so that the data is protected. Now, if you're doing your personal business from home and therefore you need to have the security to protect your network, because if you don't, more and more small businesses are under cyber attack nowadays. They could bring you to your knee with different ways of scamming people online.
So if you are suddenly working from home, you should make your insurance agent aware of that fact.
Okay.
And I think the biggest differential is, do you own the business or are you an employee for somebody else? If you're an employee for somebody else, the employer is really responsible to protect their data.
I see.
Via your system at home. If it is your business, the onus is on you, and you should consider purchasing cyber policies. You should get your own general liability and such. As to the cyber exposure, most insurance policies will have some level of identity theft protection. Some of the higher valued homeowner products might have expanded coverage. But it all depends upon the carrier. You should check with your agent. Some of the affluent homeowners products will include protection for ransomware, for malware, beyond identity protection. It'll address phishing schemes, that sort of thing. But again, it's per the carrier and what their coverages actually offer. So you should consult with your agent to determine what that is.
Okay, so the critical difference is whether or not you're working from home as an employee of XYZ company, and then XYZ company presumably is responsible for the data transmission back and forth between the remote employee and the company headquarters. And then, however, if you're like myself, like I'm a subcontractor, so I don't work specifically for residential properties, but I'm under the brokerage, the umbrella. So perhaps I would look at something a little bit differently, and that would be under my general liability umbrella. And I should talk to my insurance agent about any coverage that I should maybe enhance or increase to prevent, any security breach or loss of data.
Exactly right.
So I know, typically when in the home buying process, the insurance agent is one of the partners that helps our clients, protect their new investment. When is it the best time to engage with the insurance agent to talk about what types of coverage perhaps a homeowner is going to need?
Well, if you're actively searching to purchase a property, it should be in the back of your mind from the get-go. However, to actually, make contact, I would suggest when you make an offer,
okay.
Maybe just prior to signing a purchase and sale agreement, you may want to at least, be thinking about what agency you want to work with.
Okay.
And then certainly when a purchase and sales is signed, that's when the ball really starts rolling.
Okay.
The mortgage company gets involved, the attorney gets involved. Everybody will want evidence of insurance, paid receipts at the closing, that sort of thing. And it's best that you start early. so that there are no surprises. Oftentimes we find ourselves rescuing closings that seem to be ready to go, and there's a hiccup. Somebody goes out, they have a beautiful backyard in the home that they're purchasing, and they decide to buy themselves a Rottweiler for the backyard. Well, that can blow up. A binder, because if the insurance carrier becomes aware that some dogs, are prohibited, and that can cause problems.
Got it.
If you're not aware, as you would well know, there's knob and tube wiring on the east side.
Yep.
It can be addressed. It can be insured. It's best that it be removed and mitigated. But if it is there, it's not going to be your standard carrier that's going to cover that. So if the potential homeowner goes out and gets an insurance policy and it doesn't disclose this, if it doesn't blow up the closing, it can certainly, it can be cause for the policy being threatened with cancellation after the actual inspection.
Okay. I know, usually that issue comes up in the first 10 days of signing the contract, because that's when we're doing the home inspections.
Right.
And so what would the carrier allow as a grace to remove it? Generally, we see homeowners, if they have knob and tube wiring, that they've removed it, any place that they can get at it. Basements, attics, those kinds of things. Usually if a kitchen's been remodeled or a bathroom's been remodeled, it's removed there when the walls are open. But we don't see homes being totally rewired. We see it being removed wherever people can address it. What types of, are there different types of coverage that people would need for that? Or is it, sort of standard as long as you removed everything you can get at?
Well, it's best if it's all inactive, if it's all been, rerouted.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's difficult to accomplish. But outside of the standard market, there are the excess surplus lines market is called, is for more difficult to place properties. Oftentimes it'll fall into that category. Lloyd's of London would be an example of one of the carriers that would fall in the excess surplus lines market. Okay. And oftentimes the coverage is excellent, but it just might be a little bit more pricey.
Understood. So they're pricing for the risk.
Right.
One of the other things that comes up, not so much on the east side, but some of our clients have vacation homes and are, being Rhode Island, being close to the water, usually in some kind of a waterfront, waterside, water view community. So we see flood insurance come up from time to time. And even not necessarily a beachfront community. We have rivers and streams that have presented issues in some of the internal markets. Can you talk a little bit about the flood insurance requirements, and when should we be contacting the insurance agent, and what kind of information can we get from you to help advise potential home buyers as they're navigating this?
Yeah, flood is a big issue in the ocean state, but you don't have to be on the ocean to be in a flood zone. And a matter of fact, we recommend all of our clients buy flood insurance. If it rains, it can flood. So you don't necessarily have to be on the ocean. You don't necessarily have to be on the Blackstone River. You may not be in a floodplain in Falster or Gloucester, but you can have a flood situation. If you're not in a floodplain, it's very affordable. So therefore, we recommend it for all. If you are in a flood area, it can be quite pricey, particularly if you have not had prior coverage. So it's usually the lender who demands that the flood insurance be in place.
Okay.
And if they determine, and you determine by looking to the flood zoning maps, they determine that your property is in a flood zone, they're going to require flood insurance. There are ways to soften the blow. If you have an elevation certificate for your property, oftentimes you can demonstrate that although a portion of the land is in a flood zone, the structure itself may not be, and that can dramatically decrease the premium you're going to pay. If you don't have such a document, I would suggest you go ahead and get one. A land surveyor, a reputable land surveyor, will produce one for you for under $1,000. It's usually a good investment. And then oftentimes you will have to do what is called a letter of map adjustment, where you appeal to FEMA. They look at the documents and they will indeed agree that you are not in the flood zone, as the bank may or may not believe. So that's one way to relieve that that onerous premium.
Okay, so that's going out, contracting with a surveyor, and then you apply for an exception based
Right. You
on.
may ask, the previous owner may already have one, and that's
Yeah.
obviously, the best route. But if not, we recommend investing.
And we hear often the term elevation certificates. So what should homeowners be aware of about what are they, and what should homeowners be aware of?
In a nutshell, it tells you that what the property level is to the flood level, and I leave it to the surveyors, but essentially it determines your elevation above the 100-year floodplain, and so they gauge your risk by that engineering method.
Okay. Anything that you see coming down the pike that we could advise clients as it relates to the insurance business, or so helpful hints that we can do, or is it just call your insurance agent soon? Well,
we always encourage you to call your insurance agent, but pricing has hardened Binta recently,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Pricing has hardened. The market has tightened.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So, we should be advising clients that you should engage your insurance agency pretty quickly in the process to make sure that there's nothing here that's going to pose a coverage problem per se, and then maybe an increase in premium due to some factor that needs to be mitigated.
Right.
So, well, again, folks, thank you very much for your time this morning. We sincerely appreciate it. And it's been very helpful to understand about the insurance business. And congratulations again on nearly 100 years in business. That's quite impressive.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
We hope we were helpful.
You very much. Thanks again.
Okay.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much, Binto. We appreciate that information and look forward to advising our clients as we go forward on how to perhaps shop for an insurance policy and some of the coverage that they should be asking their insurance agent that they might require. We always appreciate local businesses taking the time to spend with us to help us advise our clients. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you around very soon.